All right, hello, welcome to our live session. This is live session number 4, kind of recap. And this is kind of recapping when we met on Monday, and we were going over kind of the end of module 1, lesson 1, reviewing those principles of government, also reviewing a little bit for what's going to be on your first quiz that is in module 1, lesson 1, okay? So the goal of this video is to kind of recap what we went over in the live session. So I'll be going over some of the key things that we went over in the PowerPoint, some of the announcements we went over, showing you in the module, and then also talking really quick about, as you prep for that quiz, some key things that you want to make sure that you review. This PowerPoint and then the notes, the note sheet that I'm going to show you at the end, these will be available in the module as separate documents, okay? So while I'll be showing them to you in the video, if you're watching this playback, the PowerPoint that you're looking at right here with the video clips, you can open that up and watch the video clips, and also then the note sheet that I'm going to show you at the end, that also is going to be available, both of those documents, so the PowerPoint and the note sheet should be available in the live session module in Canvas, located right under this video. Okay, some of the standards that we're going to be covering this week and going into module 2, analyzing the identity of the history of governments and the shape, the policies, institution, founding documents, especially going into American history as we get into module 1, lesson 2, analyzing and interpreting the events leading up to U.S.'s independence. And that's really going to take us into lesson 2 when we get into our next live sessions, the 3 major branches of the U.S. government. Critiques of, kind of the majority rule versus minority rule, analyzing the origins of government, the attentions to rule of law, alternative models of nations and groups. Okay, so just a quick recap of what's coming up. So this is for the 2022-23 school year. So if you're watching this a different school year, there might be different dates, but tomorrow, so Tuesday the 16th, module 1, lesson 1 is due. So that includes the course ARC. We worked on that last week. The notebook, we worked on that last week, and then you should be taking your quiz on that Tuesday. I'm going to go over the announcements here in a minute, which is showing you where the live session tab is, where you can find these playbacks, going over scholar attendance, so that's been updated for this school year, and then reviewing HonorLock as you go in to start taking these module quizzes. Just a couple of tips on what you need to make sure you are doing correctly, or if you have any problems, how to troubleshoot that. On Friday, so later this week, module 1, lesson 2 will be due. So the course ARC, the notebook, and remember we complete those at the same time. We'll cover those or focus on those in our next 2 sessions later this week. The quiz will also be due then on Friday, covering those course ARC and the notebook. We have a gummy bear discussion on government, so using gummy bears to kind of correlate to government. You're thinking, what the heck? We'll go over that later this week, and the Declaration of Independence document. Okay, so really quick, let's go over a couple of these announcements, okay? As promised, I have added a live session tab where if you miss class, like if you're watching this recording, how you can access the live sessions, okay, or the recordings of the live sessions. So if you're in Canvas and you go to the modules tab, once you get on the modules, you're going to scroll down past module 0 and the introduction module. You're going to keep scrolling past the attendance module. You're going to find the Scholars module. So if you're in the Scholar program, this is where you'll take attendance every day. And then before you get to module 1, I have inserted a new module called Live Session Playbacks, okay? So our first tab or page has been inserted, and this is week 1, 8-8 through 8-12. So if you click on this, this is where you'll find the first week of playback. So it has the video from last week, so recapping our sessions last week, Wednesday, Thursday. It has the PowerPoint corresponding with that, and if there were any other documents. So for example, for this week, I'll create another tab. I'll have the videos inserted in there, and then I'll have the corresponding PowerPoint, and I'll have any note sheets or things like that that maybe correspond with the quiz, okay? So within this tab, you'll have a page. It'll have the week and the date, and then within that, it'll have sometimes there'll be 1 video, sometimes there'll be 2. There'll be like a Monday video to cover the Monday, and then the Wednesday, Thursday, I'll usually combine into 1. And then there'll be the corresponding PowerPoint if there's one, and then any notes or if there's a document or anything like that. Okay, but this is where you'll find it. So it won't be in the the module lessons, it'll be in its own live session module, okay? So that you can find that. You still have to complete the work, obviously, in the module 1 lesson, you know, whatever those module numbers are. But this is where you can quickly find reference in for any of that work that you miss. Okay, another announcement really quick is the scholar attendance. Okay, so scholar attendance is changing really quick. I know there's been some back and forth. It's a new program. And so the big question has been, how do we take attendance or know that you are being counted as present, even though you're not being required to attend class every day? You're not being required to attend class on the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, so I'm sorry for some of the back and forth, and administration came out this last Friday and are rolling out today, starting the 15th. Okay, so starting today, the 15th, the new scholar attendance method is going to be that if you are in the scholar program, so if you're not in the scholar program, then you can tune me out for this part. But if you're in the scholar program, then the way that attendance is going to be taken every single day is going to be through a module assignment. Now, I did an announcement on this. So if you need to go back or refresh, I said right here, there's a scholar student attendance procedure starting 8:15, only for scholar students. So if you are not a scholar student, you need to ignore everything I'm saying right now, okay? Because we already went over your attendance policy. You attend live sessions on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? That's how you get attendance. And then you fill out the attendance form on Tuesdays and Fridays. Scholar students, though, you must, starting Monday the 15th of August, okay, you must fill out your own attendance form. So where do you find that? So you go into modules, go past module 0 in the introduction, scroll past the attendance module. That is for normal attendance on Tuesdays and Fridays, which you will not take attendance in there. You will take attendance right here. So it's right underneath that. It says scholar attendance. Whoops, I'm sorry. Scholar attendance assignment, scholar students only. Okay, so nobody else. And each day you'll see it right here. So for the 15th, you fill out the assignment. For the 16th, you fill out the assignment. For the 17th, you fill out the assignment. So each day you fill out the assignment, and that is how your attendance counts. That is the only way for your attendance to count. Okay, so whether or not you come to the live session, whether or not you email me, whether or not you submit an assignment, that's the only way for your attendance to count. I am so sorry for the changes. I am not trying to be confusing. This is just how admin has decided to do it, to streamline it so that we don't have teachers doing it 100 different ways. Okay, if you have any questions about that, you can message me or please read the announcement. Okay, and then the last thing I want to go over really quick in announcements is the Honor Lock. Okay, so Honor Lock, obviously starting with module 1, lesson 1, the quiz. The quizzes you're going to start taking, okay? You did a sample. You had to download the programs and you did a sample of the, sorry, you had to do a sample quiz so that you knew how to do it. So remember, you have to have an ID, you have to have a camera, you have to be fully dressed and all those kinds of things. I did an announcement because inevitably there's going to be issues. There's always tech issues or things that arise or things like that. So I did an announcement right here, Honor Lock, things to remember or troubleshooting. So that as you get started, you have some reminders. So first and foremost, you must have an ID. You must have an ID, meaning a school ID. You must have a web camera. You need to be fully dressed. It needs to be a well-lit room. No background noise. Your face must be visible at all times on the camera, okay? Now, troubleshooting. If it won't load, if it says that you need an access code, under no circumstances will students need an access code. So it says it right here. If it says that, then here are the steps to try to troubleshoot that. Before you message me, listen, here's the thing. I am not the expert on Honor Lock, okay? CCSD pays for the program of Honor Lock and their proctors. They are the experts. So if you have these problems before messaging me, here's what you want to do, okay? Ooh, they're trying to kick me out. Stay in the call. Sorry about that. Okay, here's what you want to do, okay? You want to go to the Honor Lock chat. So if you go over to modules, they have a 24-hour chat line that seriously has helped under every circumstance that I have seen. Okay, under module 0, you click on the 24-hour chat button. I don't care if it's 1 a.m., they'll help you. I'm sorry, me at 1 a.m., you're going to have to wait till the morning. Okay, you won't get help from me. All right. And you say begin live chat, and they are available. You click on that, you tell them the problem, and 99% of the time they can figure out the problem for you. Okay, they can walk you through it, they can figure out the problem, and they can help you troubleshoot. All right, so please go here. If the announcement, if you can't troubleshoot what's going on, then please go to the live chat. Okay, and most of the time they can figure out settings or what's going on or what the problem is. Please make sure, though, that your face is visible, that you're in a well-lit room, okay? You don't have other people in the room with you. You're not talking during it. Most of these quizzes take less than 10 minutes, so it shouldn't be a problem. You're not getting up, taking breaks, because you're not supposed to leave the camera view, okay? Because these things can automatically get you disqualified and count as academic dishonesty, and we really want your quizzes to count and you to not have any problems. Okay, that does it for announcements. All right, so let's get back into this. I'll do a quick overview of the things we went through, try to make this as seamless as possible. We did a bell ringer talking about what kind of music we like, all right? So we had a fun discussion in the chat about that. A lot of people talking about indie music, R&B, 80s, 90s music. I personally like country music. I know, don't judge me. Everybody seems to kind of give me backlash for that. Heard a lot of rap music, heavy metal, all kinds of different music. So you're definitely an eclectic group, which is awesome. We reviewed the 5 types of government. We watched a quick video clip on that. So if you go into the PowerPoint, you can watch this quick video clip in YouTube. It's a great review of the 5 types of government. All right. This was also covered in your notebook and in the course ARC. We talked really briefly about the difference between democracy and dictatorship, okay? On one extreme, you have dictatorship, right? This is one person ruling over everyone. Okay, so one person in charge ruling over everyone, and that person through force imposes their will on everyone. Okay, so often through a military or, something like that. To the other extreme, you have a democracy. Okay, now there are different types of democracy, but to describe a democracy in general, this would be the power of the people, right? So the people have a say in their government. So whether it be voting directly on policies or electing someone to represent them or electing their leader, but in any way, shape, or form, the government being in the power or the hands of the people. We obviously in the United States have a form of democracy, right? We have a republic through indirect democracy, setting that up in laws that we vote and we participate in that process. So we have a dictatorship at one extreme. So if you were to think of a country in modern day, North Korea is a great example. And the other extreme, right? Democracy, a lot of the Western world dabbles or has versions of democracy. The Magna Carta was a real foundational document that took us through that transition. And in the course ARC, you should have, when you were doing your notebook, there was a quick video on this where it talked about this, okay? King John was a monarch, which is a type of dictatorship, right? You just do that through divine right, birthright, who was going around and raising taxes whenever he wanted and arresting people whenever he wanted. And the problem was there was just no accountability to that. And that often happens with a dictatorship. There is no accountability. Here's newsflash. We all have a tendency, without boundaries, without laws, without regulation, that abuse of power easily can get out of hand. Well, nobility started to get really tired of King John doing whatever he wanted. So they all conspired together to write this document that instead of just another civil war or an uprising or a peasant rebellion. Now, historically speaking, there's been so many peasant uprisings and war and rebellions trying to counterbalance when a ruler gets out of hand. The problem is that only temporarily takes care of it, right? Whoever the dictator is or the monarch is till the next one comes along. The Magna Carta was an attempt to have a document that was not only going to curtail this monarch, but every monarch going forward, okay? That would limit their power, creating a constitutional monarchy. Now, what this document said was no taxation without representation, that a monarch couldn't just on a whim raise taxes when they felt like it. Another thing, that people had the right to a trial, that a monarch couldn't just throw you in jail for no reason, okay? Imagine if you got grounded and you didn't know how long. I know when my kids get in trouble, if I take away TV, the very first thing they want to know is, how long, right? We all want to know how long. If you get sentenced to prison, you want to know how long. How long is it going to be that way? So people wanted to know if they were put on trial, how long was their sentence? 5 years, 10 years, 6 months? They had the right to a trial in front of a jury of their peers, okay? Not just the king who was mad and had maybe an alternate agenda, okay? Innocent till proven guilty. A lot of our founding a lot of our founding issues in our Constitution were founded on the Magna Carta. So the Magna Carta is kind of known as this OG original of constitutions, okay, that other constitutions, including our US Constitution, are based off of, especially the ideas of our legal system and representation, right to a fair trial, and taxation. What is the difference between direct and indirect democracy? When we get into a government by the people, how does that run? Well, in the course arch, we talk in the course arc. Sorry, I keep saying wanting to say arch, and it's arc. We talked about this, right? You go all the way back to Athens. They were the first example of a direct democracy, where the rich Athenians would go and would vote on every single issue. This sounds great, except that it's really inefficient in that you have to be rich, and that's your full-time job. So the Romans actually kind of took that idea and modified it and established a republic, which was that the Roman Empire was broken up into different provinces, and each province, so they were all around the Mediterranean, the old Roman Empire, and they would elect or appoint a senator to represent each province or area to go to Rome, the capital, and to participate, vote, and to help legislate on their behalf in the capital indirectly. Today, we do this in essence the same way, right? Each state elects representatives to go to the House and Senate and vote on our behalf on legislation and laws and ideas that will carry us forward. What we do this for is, one, to save time, and two, that we trust somebody to represent our interests. Now, the question sometimes becomes, what if they don't represent our interests? So let's say that we're from a liberal area. So we by nature then elect someone who is more liberal. So let's say a Democrat, and they go to Senate and a senator, let's say that they disappoint us. We feel like they haven't stayed true to a more liberal agenda. Maybe they've been too moderate or more conservative. We feel like they haven't truly represented us. Then the next election cycle, like for example, this fall, we have elections coming up. Then oftentimes, if that base was still, the majority was still very liberal, that person might be voted out and replaced with someone else. Now, the opposite could be true of a conservative area, right? If it was a more conservative area, they might vote a Republican in, okay, or a libertarian in, okay? And in that case, then they would be sent to Washington, right, to vote on that, their base's behalf. And if your base is happy with you, then you have a good chance of reelection. If they're not happy with you, then you can be voted out and voted out and someone else replaced you. So back to the 5 major types of government. What are those? Okay. So if you brainstorm, we put this in the chat box. Okay. Because not only do you need to be able to list them, you do need to be able to define them. And we did do this in our course notebook, and it was covered in the course arc. Okay. So the 5 are monarchy, oligarchy, representative monarchy, democracy, and dictatorship. Did I get them? Yeah, I got them. All right. We went over dictatorship. We went over democracy. A monarchy is just divine right of dictatorship. Representative monarchy is when a monarch's rule has been limited, okay? So a monarch over time has lost control. So you keep your monarch, but they don't actually yield real political power. So for example, England is probably one of the best examples. The Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, still is in power, the most well-known monarch, at least in the Western world for sure, okay? Yet actually doesn't yield power, has social power, but not real political power. England has a prime minister. They have Parliament, the House of Lords, the House of Commons. So they have a type of democracy, republic, right, where they have representation, they vote people in and out, okay? It's a government of the people. So they don't have a monarch anymore that actually makes political decisions. Yet they have a monarchy, but it's a representative monarchy, okay? That is a figurehead, not with actual yield of power. Oligarchy, let's talk about that for a second. An oligarchy is actually kind of difficult to define, but you try to give examples. So historically speaking, an oligarchy is where you do have a dictator or a single leader of a country who rules kind of in cahoots, so to speak, with land-holding elite, rich elite, okay? And together, they make a lot of money, they make a lot of deals, and they rule their country, and often at the expense of the people. So an example in history in the late 1700s, early 1800s, Mexico went through this for a while, where they had quote unquote presidents, really dictators, okay, who ruled with the landholding elite who owned over 97% of the land in Mexico. Okay, 1% of the population of Mexico in the late 1700s, early 1800s owed 97, that's right, 97% of the land. And they would make deals basically with the leaders of Mexico, these military dictators, okay, to keep the money, pay off the leadership, all right, and they would rule the country. All the while, these poor peasants were basically working on the land for next to nothing, in poverty, starving to death, working in essence like slaves. Oligarchies today look a little bit different. Instead of owning land, it's industry. It's large businesses who work with government to have singular monopolies over certain industries. Russia would be a great example of that, okay? Vladimir Putin works with a lot of oligarch billionaire companies and has what we would call a monopoly on certain industries. So maybe it's a gasoline company and they have a contract to control all the gasoline in Russia. Maybe it's trade. Maybe it's transportation. Maybe it's food distribution. Maybe it's internet. Maybe it's gasoline. Maybe it's internet, power. There's all different kinds, fossil fuels, all different kinds of industries. So whatever that company specializes in, they make a contract with the government. They make a ton of money. They monopolize that industry within that country. And in return, that government gets paid off. It makes a lot of money. So the reason I use Russia as an example is because of the Ukrainian war that's been going on. One of the ways that the Western world has been trying to kind of penalize Russia is through sanctions, right? And a lot of those sanctions have been put on Russian companies, these oligarchs who have been working with Russia. So not only hurting their businesses, but then cutting off those services within Russia because they're a monopoly within Russia. So it's kind of complicated, but trying to help you understand that. Okay, here's a really good video. It's only about 4 minutes. It helps break down the forms of government. And again, if you click on the PowerPoint located underneath this video, you can also watch that short video clip. Social contract, one of the last things we're going to review before I get to your notes and then you're done with this session, okay, is Thomas Hobbes actually was against democracy. He thought that would be mob rule, okay, just the mob getting what they wanted. He actually believed in a dictatorship, but he did believe that the dictator was obliged to be fair to the people. So he believed that there was kind of this contract between a dictator and the people, that the dictator had the role of caring for and being humane toward the people. And in return, in this contract, that the people would follow the rule of the dictator and there would be peace. Okay. Now, as long as both sides carried out what they were supposed to do, all is well. Now, if the dictator overstepped, then Thomas Hobbes felt it was the will of the people or the right of the people to rebel, to protest, to have civil war, and that this would keep accountability on the dictator. So while Thomas Hobbes was against democracy, he did feel, though, that there needed to be checks on a dictator to be humane and to not take advantage of the people. So he believed in this contract. So if you think about today, do we have any contracts in place today? Are there any agreements or things that if we do something, we're supposed to get something in return? Something we talked about in class, what about like taxes? Think about it. We pay taxes. What are some guarantees or things that we're supposed to get in return? Think about it for a second. If you pay taxes, what are some things that you are guaranteed supposed to get? I'll give you a hint. You're participating in it right now. Public education. All people in the United States, because of taxes, have access to free public education. Now, whether or not they use it, that's their choice, but they have access to it, right? How about police, firemen, first responders, right? If I call 911, if I'm being robbed, or if my house is on fire, or if I have a medical emergency, I have the right to have that response because that is paid through my taxes, right? The job that I work and through my taxes, that is funded. Military, our borders are protected, or abroad, our interests are protected or fought for by military, which is funded through taxes. And finally, government would not exist without the formation of a state. And we talked about at the very, very beginning, the 4 things that are needed in order to create a state. You need to have people themselves, so a unified group of people that come together, historically speaking, that maybe have language or culture or idea or history that brings them together. Historically speaking, we saw often a monoculture. More present day, we see more multicultural groups of people coming together. You have to have land. You have to have land or something that you claim where you're going to live, where you're going to make your home and your stake. You need to have sovereignty. Okay, so freedom, you need to be free from or declare independence from whoever you are fleeing from or whoever you've been controlled under. And then finally, you have to set up a government. Okay. Now, what kind of government that is, there's a lot of choices. We've been over the 5 major. There are more than that. And we'll talk about some of those options, but we'll be focusing a lot on US government in this course. But there are quite a few different options. So what do you need to focus on for the quiz? Okay, so that you can score well, and the goal is to score well the first time so that we work smarter, not harder, reducing our chances of having to reassess. Okay, you definitely need to know the key vocab. This was the very first section in the notebook. So be able to define government, social contract, natural rights. So natural rights, that's talking about John Locke, life, liberty, pursuit of property. Okay, know the difference between direct democracy, indirect democracy. Both are types of democracy, but how they function. And then here are some of the key concepts. A lot of this we've reviewed, we've covered, and they were covered in the course ARC questions. One of the best things you could do before you take the quiz, it is multiple choice. It is 7 questions. It's worth 14 points, 2 points each, okay? One of the best things you can do is actually go back and look at those multiple choice questions at the bottom of each page in the course ARC, because I'll give you a hint, some of them are very similar. Okay, and so this kind of is that list. You obviously can't click on this because you're watching the video, but this links you then to the notebook page that I gave to students. And again, this will be linked in the live session page, which you can have access to. So it's just taking those 2 slides and I turned it into a Word document. Okay, now if you want to prepare this as a notes page, all you need to do is go to File, go to Make a Copy, rename it, and then save it in your government folder. Remember when we did our notebooks, I told you, make a government folder on your Google Drive, and then you could save this in that same folder, okay? Click on Make a Copy, and then that's gonna allow you in your copy to type on that drive, okay, or to type on this document, okay? Because I've shared the document with you, but I haven't given you editing rights. So you're gonna have to make a copy in order to type on the document. So if you wanna define this, if you wanna like explain what these are, you wanna list the 5 types of government, those are gonna be something that you wanna do, okay? So before I let you go, make sure that you know the 5 key vocab words, okay? Know these key concepts. These are things that we reviewed last week in the course ARC and some today, all right? And in this notes review list, okay, a great way to just kind of compile that and go back so you're not kind of all over the place, all right? If you have an accommodation in your 504 IEP, what I would do is I would print this off and either type or you could handwrite on this, and then you could actually use this as your notes while you're taking your quiz, okay? Let me know if you have any questions. I hope that this was helpful and hope you have a great day. All right, thank you so much.